Good morning. The news overnight is staggering from Nepal. More than 2,400 dead, thousands more injured after a 7.8 earthquake hit the country yesterday. The epicenter was just north of Kathmandu, Nepal's capital and its largest city, but strong aftershocks in the region, some as high as 6.7, are making rescue efforts more difficult. CBS News correspondent Holly Williams is there. Holly.
Good morning, Bob. It was just before noon here in the Kathmandu Valley yesterday when the earth began to shake violently, and that continued for several minutes, burying people beneath their own homes and tearing up roads in some areas. It also demolished several centuries-old towers and temples in this historic city. Rescue workers here are picking through the rubble of toppled buildings. They're obviously hoping to find survivors, but they're expecting to find more bodies. And we may not know the final death toll here in Nepal for several days to come. This is an impoverished country, one of the world's poorest, and a disaster like this one will severely test its resources. The hospitals here are struggling to cope with the sheer number of injured people. There have been plenty of promises of international help, but the airport was closed in Kathmandu until this morning, so very little of it has come in. I was just driving through the center of the city, and everywhere I went, I saw people sitting out, camping out on the street, some of them in the middle of the street. They are too terrified to stay at home, too terrified to be anywhere near a building. Aftershocks are still jolting the city, and people are fearful that more buildings could collapse. One aftershock hit just after I arrived in Kathmandu this morning. I was inside the airport as the ground started to heave. Light fixtures were swinging from the ceiling, and many people ran for the exit, fearing another large quake. Nepal sits high in the Himalayas, as you know, and it's also located on the edge of a tectonic plate. It's prone to earthquakes, but this is the biggest quake in over 80 years, and some scientists had predicted the country was overdue for a big one. The quake even triggered an avalanche on Mount Everest, where hundreds of climbers were attempting an ascent. It's thought several people were killed. Others were also killed as far away as China and Bangladesh. Bob?
Holly, is there any way to know how long these tremors are going to last? Is there any kind of news on that coming in?
We have no information on that, but when there's a quake of this size, sometimes for several days afterwards there are tremors. That was certainly the case a few years ago when that large quake hit off the coast of Japan.
Is there any kind of communication going on? I mean, how are people finding out about where to go or what to do?
There's very little communication. The internet is down across most of the city. The phones are only working sporadically. What I see happening is communities pulling together, deciding to camp out on the street near their homes or on sports grounds, and really pulling together to make sure that they're fed and that they have shelter during the night. What they don't want to do is return home because they're so fearful that more buildings might collapse during aftershocks.
Well, Holly, we're all very proud of the job you're doing out there, but be very careful. Holly Williams in Nepal. Holly, thank you so much.